I have two microphones. I'm the loudest one here.
The most important. I want to make sure we get every word.
When the Sarah speaks,
I am.
Listens.
I'm just loud.
Thank you. All right, looks like we're ready to rock and roll. Everybody happy to be here tonight?
Oh, yes. Of course.
Excellent. Excellent. This time I'd like to call the Greeno Township Planning Commission meeting to order. If you could please silence all devices that make noise, and please stand with me and join in the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Ms. Sarah, could you provide a roll call for the commission to see if who's here is here?
Dwayne Jenke.
here.
Audrey Baird.
Here.
Larry Marshall.
Here.
Mike Sedlak.
Here.
Sarah Pearsall here.
And we do have a quorum, we can conduct our business. And the first item to require a little bit of work is the approval of said agenda. Are there any adjustments, changes, comments on the agenda? A motion to approve as submitted may be in order.
So moved.
We have a motion to approve as submitted. Is there support?
Support.
We have support. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have an agenda. Next item on our agenda is the approval of the May 15 meeting minutes. Are there any comments, questions, adjustments, corrections, whatever, to the minutes as submitted?
Make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
We have a motion
Support.
and we have support. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have minutes. Next item on the agenda is the call to the public. This call to the public, which is the first of the meeting, is limited to agenda items only. If you wish to speak, please either come up to the desk and sit by the microphones or stand by the podium. Provide your name and address for the record if you could. Anyone wish to speak tonight?
Matt Ruprecht, 13799 12 Mile Road. Ready?
Yep.
I'm here today opposed to the Dove Lake PUD and requesting that you deny final approval. Let me start by saying I live 2 doors down from the developer, Tom. It's uncomfortable to be here again and speaking out against the development. But it's something that I feel very, is important and enough to take the awkwardness and the backlash. As the Dove Lake community spoke out in May, Tom retaliated by blocking our access to our boat ramp with a new lock gate and physically parking a trailer in the way. Fortunately, neighbors talked him into removing it, but that's our reality right now. He also sent an email to the lake with veiled threats trying to get us to back down. For example, he indirectly threatened to ban my style of boat from the lake. In a moment, I will hand you details, and I would like them read into the minutes. We just want to protect our investment and have reasonable use of the property and common space consistent with what we were told. Regarding the HOA that was discussed during the last meeting, after years of ignoring our request to turn it to residents, Tom strategically emailed us saying it will get addressed starting next week. It's imperative that a HOA is properly and fully turned over to residents before granting this PUD. Tom will punish and fight the residents on this matter to maintain the control over us. It's critical that a proper HOA addresses our right to a boat launch as well as common area maintenance, which for us is the lake. Septic. I want to reiterate my concerns on the proposed septic field. We'd love to see any documentation to assure that any maintenance would be ironclad. Given the proximity to open water, should the septic fail and Dove Lake become polluted, it would greatly hurt our property values. For any future development, I'd like to see a bond be established in support of septic maintenance and any other common area maintenance until the HOA under this new PUD is turned over to residents. This would create an economic incentives for Tom to turn it over. So he doesn't have to, these future residents don't have to deal with the runaround we've had. Since the preliminary PUD was granted years ago, area traffic has increased dramatically. And I think this development, which does include connecting 12 Mile to Kensington, would likely create changes in traffic patterns. This level, and as we can already tell, the level of service at the Kensington and Silver Lake Road interchange doesn't seem adequate for this. If you've driven by there recently, you know what I'm talking about. I also want to make sure any new development has proper drainage. Drainage for our split lot development was not fully implemented during the split lot phase, and we're living with the consequences to that today. You know, when I signed with Tom verbally 5 years ago, I was verbally promised an access road, a boat ramp, and a functioning HOA. None of that's happened, and I'm counting on you to help protect our investment. Thanks.
Thank you.
Here's what I had, and Lori will be turning in other documents in a moment.
Okay, is this what you read?
That's just what I read, yes.
Okay. And I'll turn this over to our secretary so it can be incorporated into the meeting minutes. Anyone else wish to speak?
Hi, I'm Lori Fleisner. The address is 27035 North Dixboro, South Lyon, Michigan. I am also a resident on the lake, and as Matt mentioned, we still don't have the HOA turned over to us. We've sent 2 letters to Tom by the lawyers. I have copies again included back in 2022 to turn over the HOA to us. Again, 2 months ago, our lawyer's been chasing his lawyer and sending Tom emails trying to get a response as to what's going to happen with the HOA. Like Matt stated, we simply got an email Wednesday, very slandering of myself, saying that I'm harassing the owners to try to participate in this lawsuit and threatening my landscaping, threatening, I have copies of all the emails and everything that I'm going to turn over, threatening the other homeowners as far as things that they've done. Tom only responds directly to some of the owners via email as a stall tactic, no true motives, or he would have sent the bylaws to our attorney for review and turned the HOA over to us by now. So I have copies of texts and emails where he's claimed that he's going to do certain things or that he was actually approved. Okay, back in 2023, he texted several of the neighbors saying, oh yeah, it's all approved, the boat launch is gonna go in. So we've had to deal with this kind of manipulation and these lies for, like Matt said, 5 years. And then he emailed us last week that he wants to do an HOA meeting Monday with 4 days' notice. Many of us work. We can't just drop everything, and we still don't even have bylaws to review. My assumption is he finally filed the HOA for $50, and he thinks we're gonna pay the $5,000 or $7,000 it's gonna take to create the bylaws. His emails include threats as to what will happen to us if we don't comply with the demands. I have emails stating that Green Oak, the Green Oak Township, someone here, I wish Tom would tell me the name of that person, advised him that he shouldn't allow us access to the current half-shod boat launch or future boat launch, that we should all have to put our own boat launches in on the lake. And that Green Oak advised him of that because he's done such a great job with this lake. I have it in writing from him. I'm including that because I would like the name of that person at Green Oak that told him that. We were promised a boat launch when we bought the property. Okay, all of us were told that. I have email and text telling us that a boat launch is going in. Nothing said that a boat launch was going in if there was a development. And secondly, acknowledging that bait and switch, I have copies of what we were originally given as what the development should have been, that bait and switch, and what we signed acknowledging the new development, okay, is an acknowledgement that, you know, that was his intentions. It's not an approval of it. We're not saying that we agree with it. We never did. And why would we spend so much money and agree to paying maintenance on a community boat launch if we all had to put our own boat launches in? So we have 12 people, and I don't think Eagle would grant us the accessibility to put 12 boat launches in that 45-acre lake. So again, it's a lot of bait and switch. none of us would have been interested in purchasing this property had that happened,
It's
so.
time.
Yeah, it's time.
Okay,
It's time.
yep. I have copies for everyone, and then I have copies of all the documents backing up the deed restrictions
Oh, that sticks up there.
that I'd like submitted.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah, and if everyone wants a copy of what I was reading, because it did get a little long.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Anyone else wish to speak tonight? Please state your name for the record. Also, there is a three-minute limit. I neglected to mention at the beginning.
Avis Dorsey, 27203 North Dixboro Road. Apologize in advance, lost my voice the other day, so we'll see how this goes. Anyways, I mainly just wanted to speak on the density on the other side of the lake. I know when I was purchasing my land, I stood on top of the little fill dirt from the neighbor's place that got put onto my lot. And Tom had told me, yeah, across the lake, we're going to do a development. I have no problem with that. Happy to see it be developed. What I'm not interested in is, he told me there's going to be 20 to 30 homes over there, not all of lake access, over the entire 108 acres. Come to find out, since 2019, he's been slipping in little Phase 2, I guess, pictures of the Phase 2 development that he's trying to get passed and approved. Every single one of those is 37 homes on a little pencil-style wide lot. That's an acre deep. Adding 37 homes to a 50-acre lake, we have 12 people on the lake right now, one without even a boat, doesn't even use the lake. And when there's 2 people out there using the lake, we kind of wave from the deck and say, hey, I'll go next. That's kind of how it works. I feel like with tripling the amount of people and boats on the lake, it's going to make our all power sports lake useless. Might as well just go to kayaks. I also just feel like I was told when I was purchasing my land that there was going to be 20 to 30 homes over the entire land. He didn't, even though he already had it drawn up and was trying to get it approved with you guys, wasn't forthcoming with me and told me that there were 37 lake access homes. It would have probably changed my mind maybe. I don't know, I'm purchasing the land or not, but it would have just been nice information to have and not a sweet sell saying that there was going to be 20 or 30 homes over there. I was also kind of told there was going to be a easement on Damien's property, which is my neighbor, going to the north side of the lake. The whole north side of the lake was going to be undeveloped and going to be communal area and free space for people to enjoy. Now looking at the Phase 2 that I see, it appears, I believe, Tom and his son are building 2 homes there. So just something, again, just concerned about the density and all the sewer, the waste, and everything else. So that was it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak this evening? No one else wishes to speak to this call of the public? Then we will close the call of the public and move forward. Next item on the agenda is the recommend approval or denial to the Township Board for final review of Dove Lake, a residential planned unit development located on parcel 4716-13-200-017. The property is currently zoned RE, residential estates. It's 108.15 acres in size. Would you like to make yourselves comfortable, stable?
Absolutely.
State your names and address for the record, if you could, please.
I'm Thomas Schroeder, the developer and owner
Okay.
of the private 108 acres.
All right.
Good evening, Roger Myers. I'm legal counsel for the applicant, 915 North Michigan Avenue in Howell.
Thank you very much. Let's get started with this, and as usual, I'd like to start with our planner to see if, Ms. Marin, if you have any updates you would like to provide us. I see we did receive a letter dated June 16th from your organization.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. This memo is pretty similar to the one that you all received last time. Just as a very quick overview of the project for the record, the preliminary PUD approval was issued for this 37-unit project in April 7th, 2021. That established the layout and density of the PUD. There were no outstanding planning items as part of the preliminary PUD approval, but there were outstanding engineering items. The conditions of the original PUD approval did include that the applicant would enter into a PUD development agreement with the township, and there were other conditions about what needs to be included within that PUD development agreement. And the Planning Commission can recommend additional conditions that can be part of the PUD development agreement at this stage, as long as they advance a legitimate government interest. And we have in the memo a little bit more details about what that is, protecting the natural environment, public health, safety, and welfare in general.
All right. Is that it?
That's it.
Planning Commissioners, any questions for Ms. Marin? At this time?
Not for Michelle.
Okay. Mr. Minor, do you have any updates from an engineering
Yes, sir.
perspective?
I wanted to correct myself from last month's meeting. I said that the applicant had legal access. That was not up to me to determine. That should be determined by township legal counsel. There is access off of Kensington Court. I just want to make sure it's of a legal manner. I also forgot to mention last week that, or the last month at our last meeting, I didn't see in any of the documents where maintenance of that stretch or private road was addressed anywhere, and I would like the attorney to look at that as well. One other thing I wanted to mention, we did receive master deed and bylaws, they're still under review. I did notice that the Exhibit B drawings were not included, so if the applicant could get those to us, we can review them all at once and get comments back.
Okay.
And that's all I have.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Minor? Not at this time? Great. I'll bring it to the Planning Commission members then to address or bring forward their comments and concerns regarding the development as it stands so far. Mike, start at your end.
I will hold my comments or questions until after the applicant addresses the items that have already been brought up, and see where we go from there.
All right. Audrey?
I'm going to wait till the list is covered.
Okay. Sounds good.
I'd like to hear from the applicant first, please.
All right.
Who might have changed fate?
All right. Mr. Schroeder, would you like to address some of the items that have been brought up so far?
Oh, I would. You betcha. Last time I was surprised and blindsided by some of my neighbors. But I'm certainly much more prepared this time to answer some of their flagrant lies and exaggerations, and with the truth and the documents to prove their. Mike Cole and I, with the engineer, were here last time to ask any questions on the new development at the last meeting. Planner Michelle, said it was already preliminary approved by the Planning Commission and the board, and already had the public meeting, of course, at that time in 2000 and 2021. Rick, last time, he said he had, I guess his exact words, that he scrutinized the plan up and down, right and left, to make sure everything is in perfect compliance with the township engineering standards, and he says, we are satisfied with these plans. I didn't really see how the existing homes had anything to do with the new development at the time. Is why I was kind of like unprepared, but I'd like to clarify a few things right now. First of all, the parcel, the Miesenbaum parcel owners on the east side of the lake, which are a couple of them are here right now representing, he said he wanted to start an association. I looked through every one of my records, and 100% of my recollection, the first time I heard that they wanted to start that association was 3 weeks ago. Lori had an attorney letter sent to me. absolute first time. No sweat off my back. I already got all the paperwork prepared, the deed and the bylaws and all that. That was already been prepared in case we wanted to start it. So yeah, she's right. I did file with the state of Michigan, and it's now incorporated. I says, let's have the first meeting at your earliest convenience. I had booked the room down at the library, and apparently we need to have a little more notice before that meeting takes place, but totally fine with me. I never not let them have a meeting. But to clarify, the parcel owners, there's no mandate for them to have an association. In fact, to be honest, most of them, they told me, the reason why we're moving on these parcel lots is we don't want a homeowner association kind of looking over our back. And so that's, the majority of them, they didn't want that. That's why they moved on the acreage lot. So to hear these people say this is kind of like, well, disingenuous, I guess would be the, let's see. You know, a couple of the top concerns I received, of course, was they were saying they didn't receive adequate notice from the township in 2020 is when the public hearing was, and when the planning commission and the board already approved, so they're, I don't say a little bit late, but I have their handwritten sign. They fully knew every bit about the 37 lots. It was already approved at that time, and just in case they had a lapse in memory, I had them sign acknowledging it. And I do have copies of this right here, including some of the top complainers like Lori and her husband did sign that, and Matt and his wife did sign fully acknowledging the 37 lots. So to come now and say, well, we didn't know, but if we did know, they might have slipped it in on them. Yeah, it's a little bit disingenuous when I have a signed contract from them, which I'll hand over to you to look at. So it's kind of blindsiding and just, you know, another thing, Matt talks about the location of the community septic. First of all, that was approved, again, 4 years ago by the county and the state of Michigan. And it's closest to my house. It's over 1,000 feet away from my house. Matt's several doors down, so it's even probably several thousand feet away from his house. So to bring that up is a little bit. Then the other thing was during the engineering process, originally the solids and the fluid was all going to go to the septic field. But then it got, I revised it, frankly, so it'll be the same as all the 4 homes on 12 now. They're called step systems. So just the solids will be in the front of everyone's yard, along with a pump tank for a pressure. So the fluids only will be going to that field. So there'll be much less stress on that field, and any possible smell will much less also. Now, as far as the density, a little bit richer them saying that. Their average is 2 acres, give or take a little bit. Now, if you do the arithmetic, I have 108 acres divided by 37 lots. It's 2.9 acres per lot. It's not, so it's greater than what they have that they're, I want to say, complaining about. But in the interest of the environment and open property, the township has a cluster option, which I've fully went along with the cluster option, which gives a large area of open space. Now, these lots that are on the lot, they're talking about their skinny little slivers. Again, the average is 2.9, which is very well scrutinized when we're getting this approved parallel plan, you may recall that. But they are the same size or larger than the hidden lake lots that are on the water. They're 70-foot wide by an average of 200 foot deep. So they're on average of the exact lot size that's left over for the building is larger than the average one on Hidden Lake. Now, those have quite large homes on it, which brings me to another, there's a sound planning principle that, well, Green Oak and many other townships use the same sound planning principle with the cluster option, so it's nothing new there. Now, my current estimate of pricing on these new lots is about $100,000 more than what they paid for their lots. And the price of new construction is $400 a foot on a lot of custom homes, which is twice as much as what they paid for their homes. And they got a fantastic deal on it. So the new homes, even though they'll be on a smaller, technically, building envelope, not including all that open space, they'll be more expensive than what they have into their homes. So they should be happy that they'll be increasing the value. And then the other thing is as an environmental point, just to be clear, with 40 years of experience developing and building and a large investment, they talk about their large investment. I have a lot larger investment in time and money. I had the vision of, here I looked at this abandoned industrial mining site, which that's what it was. And and it had been for sale for over 20 years. I went and repurposed it into a gorgeous new lakefront home community, obviously with all high-paying taxes. So I think it's 100% more beautiful and repurposed than that abandoned mining site. So, I mean, not to pat my own back, but it's pretty damn nice out, and it's going to be and then the other thing with this boat launch, which is kind of, I would say, rich for them, I've been gracious enough to let them use my private property on a boat launch, and then they're complaining it's not good enough for them. In the new development, which I do have, which I will give you a copy of, I have an agreement in the new PUD, which I've already submitted, for them to use the new boat launch. But for them to say, hey, I want the new boat launch in the new development, but I don't want the new development, well, that's kind of like contradictory. I mean, I just surprised that they would say that. It doesn't make sense. I want something, but I don't want it. It's just, I don't know if they get that's where it comes from, the new development, not just out of thin air. But they've been using my private property in the meantime, and yeah, they got acreage parcels. If they want to put their own boat launch in their own acreage parcels, there's nothing stopping them to have their own private boat launch in their own yard. But as soon as I get my new development in, I have, like I said, and I will be handing you a copy of all this for your review. Again, along with the future master deed, I have provisions for the existing homeowners to use that boat launch.
Okay.
Can I hand you some copies of what I just read?
Sure, yes.
Along with the people's signed acknowledgement. And right in the declarant, it says, on the master deed, if they're saying they didn't know about the new development, it says right in the first page of the master deed that was recorded before they bought anything, that it would be, the new development would be there. So it's pretty disingenuous.
That's the master deed for their properties?
Now, let me correct it, it's a deed restriction. Deed restriction, it's not a bylaw or master deed for their property, it's written in declaration of covenants and easements and restrictions. So it's a deed restriction, which is quite different then. But here's everyone, or almost everyone, including Matt and Lauren, my little nemesis right here, did sign in black and white that they acknowledge all 37 lots. It says, at their closing, so this was already approved before they bought their lot. So then they're signed hereby acknowledges this future planned development. Now for them to be that, I would say, lying and disingenuous to say they don't remember signing that is, well, proof that
Thank you.
they did.
I signed it.
Of course you did. So now to say you don't, and you
Tom,
don't
hey,
remember.
Tom, just focus, Tom.
Not the time, not the time.
Address us, please.
Pardon me?
I just want to make sure you're addressing your comments to us.
I thought Lori was talking to me, but
That's fine. Any other comments?
Are you all set?
I'm all set. That's my,
So I just would like to add a few things. First of all, obviously, Tom felt that it was important for him initially this evening to address some of the allegations that were raised for the first time at the last meeting, and of course, obviously address some of the additional statements that were made here this evening, just to set the record straight. But I think it's important to understand that, why we're here. I mean, we're not here to litigate or arbitrate or mediate a dispute between Tom and the other neighbors with regard to the property on the other side of the lake. The property on the other side of the lake is not part of this proposed condominium. It's a meets and bounds described development, and there's other avenues and venues through which the parties can work out whatever differences they may have over the existence of an association, the lack of an existence of an association. So, Tom obviously felt it was important to provide some context, but I think it's important to reiterate that we shouldn't let those issues distract from what is really the purpose for which we're here tonight. And the purpose for which we're here tonight is the review and our, obviously, request to get a recommended approval of the proposed final PUD plan. To that end, I think it's been alluded to, but it certainly bears repeating again. The concerns most of the concerns that have been raised either before or this evening with respect to this specific proposed condominium as a perfect example, the density and the concerns that were raised by that, you know, the reality is that ship has already sailed. I mean, the density has already been approved several years ago, as was brought up by Ms. Marin. And tonight is not the time or the process or procedure to seek to revoke that or to reconsider that. I mean, that ship has sailed. So the plan that's before you is entirely consistent with what's already been approved by the township. And so at this juncture, it's really, as has been mentioned previously as well, it's really looking at the engineering and the specific requirements that are needed to be addressed as part of your ordinance with regard to the final site plan. With that in mind, the one thing I would like to initially address, I know that the concern was raised previously, and Mr. Minor raised it again, is the status of the master deed and bylaws, in particular, the status of the Exhibit B drawings. When I got involved, when I was retained and met with Mr. Schroeder last week, the first thing I did was I reached out to Carol Rosati, who I know well. I believe she copied Ms. Cobb, because I had some questions myself about, you know, the process. And one of the things specifically that I wanted to know was, is the master deed and bylaws required to be reviewed and recommended for approval at this stage and then forwarded to the board? Because if so, I went through it wasn't in the packet, obviously, and I just wanted, obviously, to know for myself and for the advice to my client, what the specific legal status of that. Ms. Rosati confirmed to me in writing, and Ms. Cobb was copied on the email, that the master deed and bylaws are not required at this juncture to be reviewed. So we're premature to, I mean, I provided a full copy anyway, but it's premature, and those, the only thing that Ms. Rosati indicated was they have to be reviewed and approved before they can be recorded. Of course, they can't be recorded until there's a final approval of the site plan by the board itself. And consistent with that, the reason that the Exhibit Bs are not completed is because the Exhibit Bs can't even be completed themselves until the final site plan has been approved, because whatever is ultimately approved on the final site plan is going to be the engineering basis for the Exhibit B drawings. So that's from a sequence standpoint, that's what will happen. When the final site plan is approved, obviously the master deed bylaws and the proposed Exhibit Bs, consistent with the approval, will be submitted to the Rosati Johnson firm for their review and approval, and obviously that will need, and recording, obviously. And by statute under the Michigan Condominium Act, a condominium doesn't even exist, notwithstanding an approval by the township, until the master deed is actually recorded. And of course, that can't be recorded until the documents get reviewed and approved. So we're not prepared, obviously, to address that issue because it's premature to do so at this juncture. Similarly, the maintenance of the private roads, I know that was a concern that has been raised. There's specific obligations within the master deed that's required to be addressed under the Condominium Act. One of which is how the roads will, you know, the association's responsibility for the maintenance restrictions, the existence of the easements for the private roads. And so all of the detail of the maintenance, how the maintenance will be handled, will be addressed in that the master deed. That will obviously incorporate the Exhibit B drawings, and when they're prepared, that will be reviewed and approved by the township attorney at that juncture as well. So the issues, I would submit the issues regarding, you know, how the maintenance is going to be handled, the Exhibit B drawings, and obviously the master deed and bylaws themselves will be addressed, but tonight it's premature to do so tonight. And so I wanted to address that issue initially. One of the other issues that I raised with Ms. Rosati, and she indicated to me that it would just be something that would have to be addressed at the Planning Commission meeting here this evening, and wouldn't necessitate a submission before that point in time. And this is all in her email as well. You know, one of the things that Mr. Schroeder certainly is listening to, and wants to try to accommodate the neighbors as much as he possibly can with respect to this development. One of the concerns that was raised was that, well, these homes that may be built in this new condominium will not be as large, it may not be as, from a valuation standpoint, they may not have the same value, and they're concerned about their property values, and it's certainly a legitimate concern. To address that, and this was an issue that I raised with Ms. Rosati, and her direction was to raise it with you folks this evening, is that in a non-PUD context, the lot coverage percentage is capped at 25% under your ordinance. This is in your schedule of regulations, section 38.136. And so the 2-acre minimum lot size for residential estates has a maximum lot coverage for all buildings of 25%. And certainly that makes sense. I mean, if you have a 2-acre parcel, you want to have a maximum of a total of a half-acre of total buildings. That's a reasonable regulation as far as the ratios for a percentage of amount of buildings that are going to be constructed on a 2-acre parcel. But when you're in the context now of a PUD, and this was not something that was it's not part of what was addressed in the original approval, because this is some of the detail that would have to get ironed out through this process. But one of the things that the Planning Commission and ultimately the board has the authority to do is to grant discretionary deviations from the ordinance. And so the request that we would make at this point is to request that as a deviation, the Planning Commission recommend, and ultimately the Township Board approve, that the maximum lot coverage percentage be increased from 25% to 40%. Now, by comparison, Hidden Lake, their maximum percent is like 70 to 75%. It's beautiful development, and it's appropriate for homes that are, clustered around the lake, and it provides a proportionality that makes sense when you're dealing with lakefront lots and smaller lots, and the ability to accommodate larger homes that can then be built on these smaller lots. If you have a strict application of the 25% cap in these smaller clustered lots, what that inevitably then does is it minimizes the ability to build a home that's going to be on par, and from a valuation standpoint, with the folks that on the other side of the lake would like to see. So to alleviate that issue, and to provide the opportunity for a builder to build homes that will have a valuation and size that would be consistent with what the neighbors want to see. They want to see, they want to have, a development that's going to have nice homes and expensive homes that are going to maintain their property values. The only way to do that is to deviate from the 25% max and allow 40%. It still is relatively speaking, when you're talking about looking at clustered lots at a half acre, allowing 40%, that's still obviously much smaller than 2-acre and 25%. So it's maintaining the spirit of those ratios, but also giving the developer the ability to build larger homes that wouldn't otherwise be allowed on a strict application of the 25% rule. So that's really the only additional request that would be addressed in the PUD agreement, because the PUD agreement, which was in the packet, doesn't obviously have that. Under the ordinance, specifically section 38.234 subsection 7, it requires any such deviation to be specifically identified by the Planning Commission and to be noted on the plans and in the PUD agreement if it's ultimately approved. And specifically, and this is one thing I did want to point out, in that section 38-234, subsection 7, subsection B as in boy, it says any regulatory modification shall be approved through a finding by the Planning Commission and Township Board that the deviation shall result in a higher quality of development than would be possible using conventional zoning standards. So that's the specific provision that I'm referring to, because I believe that, and, obviously, Mr. Shorter believes that that deviation to allow up to 40% will result in a higher quality development than would be limited by a smaller house at a 25% maximum lot coverage percentage. So that's the only ask beyond what was already in the PUD agreement. So I don't really have anything, and unless there's something you specifically want me to address, Tom, that's all I really had to address. I'm happy to answer any questions that obviously anyone has, and would just request, obviously, approval as presented in the application with that additional request for the 40% maximum lot coverage.
Thank you, Roger. So, to be clear and specific, tonight, you are asking to add an additional deviation for this PUD.
Correct.
This is the first time we've heard about this.
Correct.
Okay. Ms. Rosati, do you have any comments on Roger's discussion tonight?
That's not Carol.
What's not? Oh,
That's not
Perhaps you
Carol.
should introduce.
sorry.
For those of you that don't know, Carol has pretty much retired. So myself, my name is Kristen Cole. I've been with Carol for 3 years, but I've been representing municipalities for 26. And so between myself and Matt Zaleski, whose name may be familiar to you, will be public grants work for you. I think Mr. Myers has stated the appropriate provision of township's ordinance that would allow a deviation.
It's important stuff, so we want to hang out.
Not gonna make me start over, are you?
No.
As much as you can.
Again, my name is Kristen Kolb,
That's good.
filling in for Carol, who has retired. Mr. Myers has cited the correct section of your zoning ordinance that allows deviations to be approved by the Planning Commission and ultimately the Township Board for a planned unit development of this type. If the board, or if the commission would like more time to consider that, to maybe see, how that would look, like a building envelope, a sample building envelope on one of the lots, you could certainly, continue this matter to the future and request that that information would be provided, so that rather than just sort of relying on the numbers that I think Michael was computing and I was too, to actually have a picture of the change, how that affects the coverage of the lots. 25 to 40% is a pretty
quite a bit.
big
Significant
number.
increase.
Like about 5,000 square feet on the largest lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's with the garage and the,
So that's,
That's it?
it's
For now?
within the commission's discretion.
I just had one question regarding the submittal of the master deed and documentation to be recorded. Along with this, I looked through Section 18279, that's our land division ordinance. Item parenthesis B, I love our numbering system. Final preliminary plan approval shall include a copy of the master deed and any additional documentation to be recorded with the Register of Deeds for review. And so I'm confused then by the statement that we don't need to see any of that at this point, which is the final plan approval.
Yeah, I did see Carol's email, but I was in meetings all day yesterday, so I didn't really think about it that much. And I have those documents. I have drafts of everything. They were provided to me from, I think Debbie gave them to us. And I've done preliminary reviews. The thing is, until the final approval is given and all the conditions are known, I mean, they can't be approved, obviously. But we have them. I think the other consultants have looked, at least have them. I don't know if they've spent a lot of time reviewing them yet. And if that's something the commission would like to see again before making a decision, again, you could postpone this, we could make sure the commission members all have copies, and so that you could read those documents yourself before taking any
I
action.
do not believe that any of the planning commission
No,
members
I
have
haven't seen
received those. I was actually looking for those for tonight's review. So that's certainly something that I personally would like to see and review. Any other questions then from the planning commission for
I just have a little question.
Kristen? I had to write it down.
A little question. Does that then change the number from 37 lots to less lots?
No.
No, he's saying, I assume, the footprint of the building on those 37 lots, correct?
That's correct, right.
Yeah, so it
Okay.
changes
I
the
just had to,
whole thing,
I just
really.
had to get my head
It
wrapped around
it
that.
really does, in my mind, it changes how we're going to deal with this. We've already gone ahead and reduced the side yard setbacks
Right,
down to an aggregate total of 15 feet
right. Between,
between the buildings, and if
Yes,
you increase that envelope, I am concerned what
Now
the
you've got
result
it.
is, so I would certainly,
Even R2 is 15 feet, so
I was imagining.
what are you going to go to
reducing
the
number
lake
of lots.
overview? I mean, but, yeah,
Yeah.
I say the plans all change.
definitely.
Mr. Vice Chairman, I wonder if the setbacks are proposed to change along with the lot coverage, or if it's just the lot coverage that's.
Just the lot coverage. The setbacks are, we're not requesting that the setbacks change. It's just the lot. So it would still fit within the already reviewed and submitted. And I mean, and I've been speaking with Mr. Shorter, even 35% would be an acceptable, as opposed to 40. If 40 is giving anyone too much heartburn, 35, it gives them the flexibility to be able to, obviously build a nicer home on the lot.
Understood. I would personally like to see some mock-ups of how that increase is going to affect the envelope on the various lots. There are some pretty small lots in there, pretty narrow lots as well, and to increase that coverage to 40%, I have a concern with. So I would like to see some examples of how that's going to look. Bringing it back to the planning commission, let's go through and ask some questions or provide comments.
I'll
Michael?
start the other end. I'll finish up.
All right.
Because then the questions I have, which are many, I get covered by others, then mine will be much shorter.
All right.
Happy to take that flag from you. So to backfill my opinion, I don't speak for the board, I speak in the commission. I speak from my perspective only. Several weeks ago, of course, received a set of prints. I have not yet finished completely reading them, but here are some highlighted questions. And I don't mean to take a lot of anybody's time. I would just remind you all that I was not on the board 4 years ago. I was pretty amazed when I looked in the archives and saw what I saw. So just some questions that I'm sure you can answer off the top of your head. There is a box, and I think it's on the construction page, one of the construction COV pages. It talks about requested deviations. Item number 3 speaks to a minimum width of 70 foot. Yet when I look at the layout, there are 16 lots at the lakeside that are less than 70 feet. They're in the 60s and so on. So how is that consistent with the requested deviation having a minimum width of 70 feet?
Mike Powell was here last week, he might be able to answer more of the engineering, but the 70 foot, I think, is probably the average somewhere in the middle. I mean, they are pie-shaped lots, they do go down. Now, that dotted line of where the building envelope would be, considering the setbacks, is probably 60 or 70% of the lot. It's quite a bit larger part of the lot than what the house is actually built on. So, but at the 70-foot line is probably the widest part of the home, so I have the correct side yards. But yeah, as it pies down, even though it's within the setback, it won't really be part of the building area.
So it's not consistently going to be 70 feet or more, it's going to be 70 feet or less.
or more, both.
Could be
The
either
average
either
here
or.
probably is 70 at the building house, as it goes down the lake. Some are the opposite side, where it pies out larger at the lake, and some, probably most of them, they pie out smaller at the lake. So, and then as they get to the road, they get larger. So on average, it's 70,
So,
like the Hidden Lake ones.
okay, let's reference Hidden Lake for a moment. So there's a setback that's been agreed to apparently of 5 feet and then 10 feet in the adjacent property. So it's never less than 15 feet total. That's
That's right.
what you mentioned. So what was your inspiration for that? Looking at Hidden Lake?
Exactly, Hidden Lake, yeah. That's exactly what's approved there. All their homes are all that exact, of the ones that are on the water. Now, the ones across the street, of course, they're larger, but of all the ones on the water, like I said, I built about 47 of them, and that's exactly right, 15 foot between homes minimum.
So as a developer, did you consider putting homes off of the lake and having bigger lots on the water and bigger lots off the other side of the street?
Absolutely.
So why didn't
I
you
consider
pursue
it,
that?
well, again, with the cluster option, to have all the homes clustered, so you have a larger open space, and it kind of goes without saying, I guess, the lake lots are quite a bit more valuable than the non-lake lots. Like
Yeah,
quite a bit
well,
more.
I can tell you, I'm troubled by that density. I'm troubled by the lakes, the.
That's the
lakefront-
least density in the whole township, 2 acres per one house?
I'm talking about the width. I have a problem with the width and the setbacks. I don't like it.
Okay, well, it's already been
Okay.
approved, I think, but
I'm crystal
it
clear
is
with
what Hidden
that.
Lake does. I think Hidden Lake is, if I'm not mistaken, the nicest, highest paying, tax paying of all the nicest homes in the
But we're not
township.
talking about Hidden Lake. We're
Well,
talking
we are, 'cause they're the
about,
same
Amen to
size lots
that.
you just said.
okay, well,
Right?
you raised Hidden Lake. I asked you if that was the inspiration.
Yes, yes, it was, sir.
Okay.
And just as a point of clarification, I'm obviously not the engineer, but it does say in the schedule regulations, the width, it says the width at the building site. So that's, I don't know, I mean, I haven't done, obviously, an analysis of the whatever 16 lots, but to the extent that it may be less at a point of the lot that's not at the building site, that could be a reason why that would still be in conformance with the minimum 70 feet.
It could be.
Right.
Could be. Your existing home off of 12 Mile lies approximately 100 feet from the property line of the south cul-de-sac. Will you put in a driveway cut from your existing property into that cul-de-sac?
It's funny you mentioned that, but some of the neighbors here that hear, well, saying distruths, untruths, I guess the polite version, that was something they wanted. I made a provision in the 4 people's front yard on 12 Mile for a private drive easement to hook up to that cul-de-sac, because no one wanted to be on a dirt road. They all wanted to have the access to be able to get out to the paved road. So that was something that they did like, and yeah, there was a provision for that in there.
So you chose not to exercise that?
No, the provision for the easement is in there, and it's called right out there, it's called private road drive. Easement for a private road drive in everyone's front yard and going to that little cul-de-sac.
Which drawing is that shown on,
Yeah.
Mr. Schroeder?
Well, the
Of the
survey
set-
for everyone's
Of
house on
the
the front,
of the
12 Mile.
Of the set that you've provided us, I don't recall seeing any type of a connection to that cul-de-sac from the neighboring yards.
I
This would
thought
be
there-
what, by lot 37 is what
Right.
you're talking
About
about? or a lot?
37 at the very end of
It'd be
it.
37.
Okay.
I think there is.
On one drawing, at least.
Yeah, right here. Oh, it's down over. It's not showing us.
I don't know
No,
how, I
that's-
don't know how we'd get there. Now, this is,
We're talking down there at the south.
yeah, this is one that they numbered upside down. So it would be
So
coming
it'll
in
be
here.
here.
Yep.
Yep, so they could, oh, they did number it upside down.
We got
I'll
the
get to
number
that.
correctly.
So I saw some inconsistencies that I want to address. And maybe it's my take or perspective. It appears that in the drawings, there, in several of these drawings, they talk about a truck turnaround. Yet other drawings call it boat parking. What is it? What's the
Well, I'll
point?
clarify, because that was brought up last week. Frankly, it was just an idea of mine. They have like a little extra parking lot for extra cars. Thinking about it, Hidden Lake, other subdivisions doesn't have that. Probably it wouldn't be needed. Maybe it was something I thought of, and I'm changing. Now I'm thinking maybe as long as everything approved plans, I'll put it in, but the residents may vote to have a pickleball court there. It might be more useful than a parking lot for some off-road parking.
Well, some of the drawings show an actual truck, but
Truck?
there's a diagram of a truck going through that road portion. There's an island.
Oh, in the island, in the cul-de-sac?
Yeah, no, not in the cul-de-sac, in the truck parking area.
Well, of the extra parking lot, that again was an extra thing, I think for the phase one, we're using that as a T turnaround just in case of an emergency vehicle or something like that, as part of the engineering requirements, just to have that turnaround. That will change when we finish the phase two.
So, in one point, you show a fire truck. Like, several drawings actually show a fire truck, 42 feet and change. Our new hook and ladder truck is 46 feet.
How many stories up does the hook and ladder truck go?
I said it's 46
And how many
feet.
stories up does that go?
That's irrelevant. Aerial.
Well, I'm saying is you might not need a hook and ladder
Excuse me,
truck.
sir.
For houses.
Aerial platform truck is not necessarily for height, it's for reach.
So my
One of the
concern
things that
is,
happens is that when you're at the street, you need to reach to be able to reach the roof of a home. It isn't the height, it's the amount of reach you get out.
so my concern is it for boat parking or is it for truck turnaround? Because my company happens to have a lot of semi-trailers, and there's no way a 75-foot long tractor trailer is ever going to be using that as a truck turnaround.
Dwayne, if I could just interject, I think what you're looking at is on the phase one drawings that is only going to complete lots 1 through 14.
Yep.
14 is right near where that parking lot is.
12, 13, and 14.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, during the phase one portion, they're using that future
For the truck.
parking lot as a turnaround, as opposed to making a dead end
Mm-hmm.
in that. When phase two comes along, that gets expanded to add the additional parking space required or proposed. So I think that's the confusion. You will see it both ways in the drawing set.
Okay, well, fair enough. Call it what you may. A semi-truck cannot make that radius, nor can a semi-truck make the radius at the cul-de-sacs. So, I'm no engineer, but if they're
We have
only,
one next to you.
oh, how convenient. So, using a 42 and a half foot old dimension of a fire truck is not appropriate when we're putting it in context of the new current fire truck that we have. Plus, I don't understand why there isn't room for a semi-truck. People of this wealth and scale that are going to be able to afford these homes, they're going to have trucks coming in with furniture, they're going to have semi-trucks coming in delivering their new ZR1 Corvette. I mean, it just, I don't
40%.
understand why it was approved as small and tight as it is, particularly in the cul-de-sacs.
They'll probably only need that truck for the ZR1 if we get that a percentage increase to 40%. But Rick, you worked with Michelle and Mike Powell. Is there a reason on that truck situation why that was approved?
We only looked at it from the standpoint of safety and the ability for the aerial platform to be able to get in there and get out without having to turn around and mess up someone's driveway. So, yeah, it was mostly for maneuverability for emergency vehicles.
So along that same point, the truck turnaround includes a 25-foot radius. So in the time that I've been on the board, every time that we look at an outside turn, we use 30-foot. So I'm not sure why a 25-foot was approved.
I think I'll check in with Chief Gentry on that.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then let's consider a semi-truck. The septic line location, when I first glanced at the plans, I didn't quite understand the holding tank and the pump situation being adjacent to everybody's house, their driveway, and then the line being on the home side. When it came to the engineering, was it ever considered for that liquid line to be on the non-house side, on the opposite side away from the lake? If there's a line rupture, a leak, it automatically, in my opinion, is going to head south, head downhill, 12-foot, 13, 14-foot grade from the street down to the water. I don't understand why that line wasn't put on the opposite side. Do you have-
Underneath the road? I'm not sure. I guess my engineer proposed it, and I guess, Rick, do you have anything, why you guys would have approved it, or is it correct, or?
No, I guess I don't have any thoughts on that, other than,
Well, if I have $1 million house and that line in 10 years or 15 years blows up underground, that creeping crud is headed into my 3-car garage or down that 15-foot open area between the houses and going right to the lake.
I suppose we could look at putting it on the opposite side of the street.
I just am surprised. It's my observation.
Okay, don't have an answer for you there.
Your attorney has addressed some of the concerns I had regarding the master deed, the HOA, all of that would be pending. I am very concerned about all of the infrastructure responsibility of the homeowners. There's a lot to take care of. Everybody has a holding tank, everybody's got a booster pump. Yeah, it's going to be very expensive to live there.
I've got the same thing, to be honest, and along with everyone on 12 Mile, and there's zero maintenance whatsoever to it. I think every 5, depending on how many people live in the home, maybe every 5 years you have the solids pumped out, but there's no maintenance. I've had none in 3 years so far. I mean, the fluid tank pumps right over to the septic system for the fluids only, and there's been no maintenance, so I don't
Well,
quite
the
follow
good
your-
news is that I looked at the soil composition.
Pardon me?
And the good news is that I looked at the soil composition, and the liquid will go straight south underground.
Yeah, it was a sand and gravel pit, right?
I get it. I was there in 1984. when
Were
I-
you?
Yeah. I helped break ground with Gordon
Really?
Food Service.
With
Yeah,
Butlers, or
with Gordon.
American Aggregate, or?
Yeah, when American Ag was there.
Okay, excellent.
Mr. Chairman, that's all I have.
Thank you, Dwayne. Thank you. Ms. Purcell.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with the sewer thing either, I'm just saying, it's just never a problem. But the 40% thing has really confused me, kind of concerned me, and I would like to see a site, just a
Some examples.
examples.
Yeah, and I think it's,
I just think we've already approved it with the size that it is at 25%.
Yep.
Having 40% changes it for me.
okay.
And Dwayne talked about some of the other things, so.
Okay. Anything else?
No, not right now.
Just curious, why now? 4 years later, why are we talking 40%?
Yeah.
It's at this phase, at this
We've
point
already
in time.
approved it at 25, so the
Yep.
40%, or even 35 is confusing to me,
Yep.
doesn't?
as it is for myself. Okay. Audrey?
I'm in agreement with their questions. If we're redrawing the lines with the size of the house on the given lots, I guess that begs the question of redrawing the size of the lot lines, but that might be a whole different can of worms. I'm going to push it down to Mike.
So I want to make it clear that whatever decisions we're making here tonight are irrespective of the other property owners. We understand that that's a separate issue. The only thing I'm saying, and when I refer to that, is past performance is an indication of future performance. So going on to that,
Should I reiterate anything, or should I wait?
so are jet skis allowed on the lake under the, under your proposal?
Under which proposal?
Your new proposal
No
that we're looking
proposal.
at?
I'm planning on having no jet skis.
Okay.
Like Hidden
Thank you.
Lake, like when I got this one approved, I brought up the same issue. I think there'd be too many of them and it'd be cause a danger.
Okay, thank you. What percentage is your, and I think the answer is 25%, is what the drawings that we have right now
Now,
indicated
to clarify
25%.
that, the building envelope on the dotted line on the plans, that's probably more like 60 or 70 or 80% of the lot. Now, we're just talking 25% coverage, so the dotted lines show the side setbacks of the current. the way
I
it was
understand
approved.
that, thank you. for
So that would be way, way bigger. So we wouldn't be redrawing anything, we'd just be, when calculating the whole percentage of the lot, we'd be able to bump it up and still stay within those dotted lines.
Okay, thank you for that clarification, but that wasn't the question I asked.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The question I asked was, is in the drawings that you have here right now, and the drawings with the houses on it, what percent of the available building area is covered by those homes right now? Is it at 25%?
We don't have a home yet.
What's, just to clarify, if I may, Mr. Sedlak, what's shown here, because there was no deviation requested as part of these plans, it's automatically defaulting to 25%. The homes themselves that are shown on the plans, these aren't the actual, these are just like samples
Got
showing
it. Thank you.
elevations. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, we are going to be able to get a copy of the deed restrictions and thank you very much. So, in looking at your drawings, which I guess they don't match up, but I get that, they're reversed, Lot 1, Lot 37, the drawings.
It has been corrected.
Okay, very good, thank you. So on the smallest lot, your 25% allows you 3229 coverage, and if you go up to your 40%, that increases it to 5166. On your, you're the one who provided the figures, 25% and 40%. You're the one who said coverage. So I calculated based on what you said. On your largest lot, it takes it from 7612 coverage to 12,179 coverage. Significant difference,
Yes.
and we certainly need to look at that. You brought up Hidden Lake a lot. I was here when that was happening, and what happened at Hidden Lake was the result of a consent judgment and the litigation that resulted, that got us to that consent judgment. What happened at Hidden Lake shouldn't have, shame on us, been considered as a norm for the rest of the township. So comparing yourself to Hidden Lake, where there was a consent judgment in place, and there is no consent judgment here, obviously, probably ought to leave that one off the table. I agree with the septic line location. I think it should be looked into, whether you wish to place that in an area that would be easily repaired rather than on the person's property. As far as the pump and all that on the property, all of us that live up in the Tri-Lakes area have grinder pumps and all that for our sewer systems already, so.
I'm lucky then. I don't have a pump.
You are, but
Yeah.
the matter of nature is, I've been there 10 years. I've had one pump failure and it was covered under your normal agreements, which then goes back to me, is are you setting up necessary funds, so on and so forth, for the overall maintenance and replacements of these grinder pumps or pumps,
It's a
lift
pump-
pumps, as part of the HOA process, or is it going to be up to the individual homeowner each time something happens?
In the PUD, it's mandatory to have these all set up and spelled out, which we're working on that. I guess,
Okay, so you don't
for
have
my
that
own,
defined
for my
yet.
own self, it's not a grinder pump, to be correct. to
It's a
be-
lift pump.
Well, it's a pump, it's a 500-gallon tank with a pump in it that pumps the fluids only. It's not, it doesn't grind anything.
So all the solids remain inside of a,
In a separate 1,500-gallon two-stage tank.
Okay,
I can attest to that, I saw it.
okay. And then what you're doing is you're simply pumping the fine liquids into the septic system,
Into the field,
into the
yes.
field. Thank you.
Gray
All
water.
right, thank you.
Gray water might be generous, but
I try to be nice.
On a good day.
Okay, on you.
Thank you, Mr. Sedlak. As usual, I have a few comments. In the last meeting we got together, I asked you about a power failure at the septic system site and suggested that you consider some type of emergency power source for that, possibly a generator, as an example. I didn't see any changes, since we're looking at the same plans that you submitted. In looking at the Eagle permit for the groundwater discharge, Part 2, Item E.9 references power failure and strongly recommends that an alternate source of power be provided for just that exact cause. So you might want to look at your permit to find out what you're actually responsible for. Also, in Part 2 of the Eagle permit, Item D.8 talks about the transfer of ownership of the septic system, which will occur at some point when the HOA takes over that. So I anticipate that you will cover that very clearly in your bylaws, et cetera.
Sure.
I certainly would like to see those bylaws, because I'd like to see some comments on the use of fertilizers on the lawns, water softener discharge. We don't want to see that going into the lake. We don't want to see it going into the septic system. Those are some things that I will be looking for when that comes around.
I totally agree. I mean, that's a township ordinance along with the ordinance, or deed restriction in my current homes, which I know some of the, my neighbors, frankly, I was wondering why their grass was so much greener than mine. Like, oh, that's because they use that kind of fertilizer and I'm using the non-phosphorus. So I told them, like, but of course they're, so it's been a bone of contention with some of the neighbors using the wrong kind of fertilizer to make their grass look greener.
I would just not use fertilizer, because then you don't have to cut it as often. That's my plan. So, Section 38, 238, parenthesis D, parenthesis 1, D, period. The final plan shall include a schedule of the intended development and construction details, including phasing or schedule. You do have the two phases in this, but we do not have a schedule for that. I will be looking for a detailed schedule for Phase 1 and Phase 2. You are committing to meeting those deadlines, unless you have to make some alteration, in which case you'll be coming back to us and advising us of changes in that schedule.
Mr. Marshall?
Yes, sir.
I saw a schedule, but it was dated 21 and 22.
So you're behind schedule already?
How unusual for construction. So we'll be looking for that. Also, 38, Section 38, 240-A, phasing and commencement of construction needs to be identified, Each phase shall be capable of sustaining its own services, facilities, and open space, and shall contain the necessary components to ensure protection of natural resources and the health, safety, and welfare of the users of the PUD and the residents of the surrounding area. I absolutely need to see what that schedule is going to look like and make sure it is self-sustaining. The construction, of course, shall commence 1 year following final approval and shall proceed substantially in conformance with the schedule. So we'll want to see that schedule in detail. The last meeting, I also mentioned on your page 1 of the deviations, right now you state that the cul-de-sac is greater than 750 feet. I requested that you actually put length in there. It appears that it's slightly over 1,000 feet. I would prefer to see that indicating that it is in excess of the 750 feet. I don't want to see a 2,000-foot cul-de-sac.
That was very strictly adhered to, I'm sure, but I'll have Paulos add that onto the,
Yeah. Note 7 of your deviations, there is a request for money that is being put into a fund to, I forget what it's called, an escrow fund or something to that effect.
It's an environmental trust fund, but
Understand, so that would be used to complete the bike path, but then that note continues on and says that when a separate plan is submitted and approved for the bike path, you would like to withdraw those funds to pay for that bike path. That absolutely takes away the township's ability to enforce and ensure that that bike path does get built. And so I'm not in favor of the way you've identified it in Note 7. And it does not agree, on the other side of that same print, General Notes, Item 18, that says it'll be submitted to the Environmental Fund, whatever
Yes.
it's called.
trust fund.
Yes. So, right now, your cover sheet doesn't agree between those two items. And I'm not in favor of giving that money back to you to actually complete the work, because then we have no ability to ensure that it's going to be completed. And
Sure.
I mean,
believe-
after it's completed, it would make sense to get the money back,
Correct,
obviously.
of course you
Yeah.
will.
Yeah.
So you may want to take a look at changing that. Just an interesting note, 14 of your general notes, the deed restrictions and condominium documents are required as part of the final site plan. And I understand the legal discussion that has taken place, but your own document says that that information should be provided at this time.
I think what it means, it's required by the final site plan, that document's gonna be required. Not that that's dictating the timing. I think that was the intent of that statement.
You might want to look at that comment. It states that deed restrictions and condominium documents are required as part of the final site plan. As part of, not afterwards, not after it's been approved, but as part of.
I'm not gonna argue semantics.
Your documents. Note 15, another one of my favorite comments from last time, is the mailboxes. I had mentioned that you're not going to be able to get a post person to come up on that road. Since it's a private road, you're going to have to put some type of common mailboxes either down on 12 Mile or at the entrance, on the north entrance coming out of Kensington.
Sure.
Kensington.
So I would like to see that, especially since Phase 1 is going to be only the 14 sites on the north end, all serviced by the Kensington Court. You're probably going to have mailboxes up there,
Sure, that makes sense.
okay? Question is, who maintains the extension of Kensington Court since it's a private road? That has been unaddressed up to this point. So that's the section from the gate that comes into the development up to where that private road extends to where Kensington Court is right now, and it appears, at least from the designation on your drawings, that that is actually part of your property.
It is part, I do, that is part of this property, yes.
So how is that road maintained?
Well, it would be part of the whole interior subdivision on the PUD. When they maintain the whole inside subdivision, that would be included because it's part of the property.
That needs to be clearly specified. Also, just,
What number was that? 16, you said?
that's not an item, it's just who maintains the extension of the.
Observation.
Yeah,
Observation.
It's an observation. Along with that, there are several drawings. In particular, if you care, RD1, RD2, SD2, ST4, SAN1, and ERO3 that signify, and there were a couple of more I didn't write down, signify that the Kensington Court extension is a public road and not a private road. So you may want to correct that on your drawings. You've got several drawings, and this is, I'm a nitpicker. You've probably learned that by now.
We thank you for that, truly.
There are several drawings that have the north arrow pointing south or pointing east. The problem here, Mr. Schroeder, is when I see careless mistakes like that, I have to look much harder at the rest of the drawing to find the other careless mistakes.
Wish you would have addressed that with Mr. Powell, the head engineer, which of course submitted all the plans to the CTI for their scrutiny, but I'll have him look at that.
Please do. Sheet number ST4 shows a boat ramp between lots 36 and 37. That's the only drawing that shows it.
What do you call it, which one?
Sheet ST4.
I show a boat ramp on the very first sheet, COV construction.
Yeah, it's up, most all the rest of the drawings show the boat ramp up on the north end around,
Right.
in between lot 1 and 2, I think.
Right, but it's supposed to be on the south end.
No.
No, all the drawings, except one, show the boat ramp up at the north end.
Okay,
Okay?
very good.
Just ST4 shows a boat ramp between 36 and 37.
That's one of the old numbers.
Well,
Former
that's
numbers.
it's at the
It's
south
a-
end.
Okay, well,
Take a look at ST4.
It's incorrect. It was
Yeah,
what
just
page?
erase it.
ST4?
ST4. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4 drawings. All your ERO drawings have the lot numbers reversed. It'd be really nice if they were consistent. You've got lot 1 at the bottom instead of lot 1 at the top.
And the reason he's being, and I will defend Larry absolutely to the end on that. The reason he's being so precise in all this is that we've learned over time that once things are approved and getting it changed afterwards, everything is subject to interpretation. We've had significant litigation going back and forth on things, well, on this drawing, says, well, I meant this, not that. So what we want you to submit is the very best that you can possibly do. And
Just
the
make
things
it
that we're
accurate.
pointing out tonight, and that Larry's pointing out tonight, show an inconsistency in attention to detail.
I'll address that with the Powell Engineering Company. I missed
I
it
will,
myself.
I will continue to inform you that when I see errors of these simple kinds, it raises the question about all of the details on a drawing. And from a personal standpoint, it increases the amount of time that I have to spend looking at these drawings to dig into that kind of detail. And I don't like to have to do that.
Well, I'd like to have you have to do that. I mean, I know between the Powell and the Township Engineering, I said, I know they very, very, as he had mentioned, look at thoroughly up and down, right and left, to thoroughly scrutinize every bit of it. So those were obviously some that overlooked by a few of the other engineers. So
Can't
you're
blame
doing
that
a
on
better,
those.
Yeah, that's
you're
not,
doing a better job than they are.
They're your drawings, not.
they're your drawings. We want to see them accurate and correct.
I understand.
Thank you. I had a question, and this really might, I don't know, Ms. Marin, if this one really comes to you, that on sheet L3, that's landscaping 3, what came up to my attention is that this Kensington Court extension has absolutely no landscaping on it. And
I noticed that.
there is no inclusion of what the design of that extension road is. there is no idea what phase that's going to be built under. And so that whole Kensington Court extension needs to be incorporated into your construction plans and your design criteria, and it has to meet our design criteria.
Actually, I already got the permits from it, from the township, so I'm kind of surprised that that wasn't on there, but,
There's no landscaping in there, I don't see anything on those drawings that tell me how that's going to be built.
the same gated entrance as we have on 12 Mile.
I don't
don't
see
see it,
what's
yeah.
going to be, how you're going to deal with stormwater runoff from that road. I don't know where it's going to go. So I would like to see I'd like to see that addressed. If it's just going to fall off onto the side of the road and that seems to be good, so be it. Put it down. But
It is what it does now, yeah.
we do need landscaping on that,
The plan sheet that I'm looking at does show 4 trees along that area.
right at the entrance.
Right.
Right here.
Yeah, right at the entrance, but
Right at the
that
entrance.
extension of the road actually goes on for probably, I'm gonna guess at this, it's probably 200, maybe 300 feet heading up to Kensington Court.
Right, off the subject parcel.
Yep.
I think it's 800 or 900 feet, and actually the, Gordon Foods, they landscape their side, and they actually are entering on technically my property, I guess, is they've got an easement to access their driveway for their southmost refrigeration plant. But they've landscaped that very nicely.
So that extension road that I thought you mentioned previously when I asked about it is not your property.
Oh, no, it is. I just said it was. It's part of this parcel, 800 or 900 feet long. It's on all the drawings.
So how is it being built? What's the design
done.
criteria for it?
It's already done. The road's already there.
Unlandscaped?
Well, no, the one side actually is landscaped,
Gordon
but the
Foods
road's already, it's an existing
did
road.
part of it.
Did they? Okay.
Yeah, it's an existing road that's already been there.
All right.
They did part of it.
So right here in the middle, there's nothing, but
Right. Yeah, that whole section in there that's on.
But there's, yeah.
There's nothing there. Okay. So that was one of my questions, is how is the stormwater from the Kensington Court to be handled? I don't see it.
Yeah, it's actually 815 feet long on this drawing. Or no, actually 936, I'm sorry.
Okay. Just a minor detail, sheet number ER03 shows the boat ramp, the one on the north end, at least the correct one, as a future boat ramp. I think that probably needs to be clarified. And then lastly, for some reason I didn't write it down, but it was high on my mind, is the Phase 1 development doesn't show an access road going to the septic plant. It appears that the access road from 12 Mile is a part of Phase 2, if I can decode the way the drawings are done. So my question is how is the maintenance on that septic plant going to be handled if there's no way to get to it?
There is, but maybe I should have that addressed in writing, but there is a gate in off of 12 Mile. In fact, all our current residents, I'm kind enough to let them use my private property, and that is where they access to use my boat launch, to launch their boats. So it'll be the same area, I suppose we'd,
Is there any improvement on that road for the
yeah, well,
maintenance?
it's gravel with a gate on it. I don't know, they've been using it. I think the whole Weber, they use that during the construction of their gravel mining.
I did not see that on any of your drawings. I would like to make sure that there is access to go in there and maintain that system. Those were my comments in looking at the current plans. I think we also discussed the ability to take a look at the covenants and deed restrictions as part of our review at this point. And so I would like to see a resubmittal of these drawings based on these niggling items that I found. My middle initial isn't A for nothing.
I
Mine
don't know what
too,
that
Larry.
means, but
Mine too,
And
Larry.
Dwayne's.
Yeah, and
And
Dwayne's.
Dwayne's.
Well, and on that note, I mean, I've tried to take as many notes as I can, but I'm not the engineer. Is there a way for Mr. Powell to get a audio copy of so he can listen to
Available online, YouTube.
the audio is, or
Yep,
video?
The whole meeting.
Yeah, the whole
Okay.
thing.
video and audio, yeah.
All right, perfect. I wouldn't have taken all those notes.
That's all right, you're getting paid for it.
Excuse me, Larry, you
Mr.
did
Chair?
make one comment about the boat ramp and having it being clarified. I don't understand your comment on that. Could you clarify that for me? Second to the last,
My last one?
second to the last comment.
Yeah, sheet number ER03.
Yes.
Shows the boat ramp as future boat ramp. This is the boat ramp up by lot 1.
Yes.
So you want to delete delete
Delete the word future.
future.
Delete
Exactly,
future,
yeah.
please.
Make it clean.
I think of these drawings as all of the other engineers and constructors that are going to be looking at these that haven't had the benefit of sitting through our meetings to hear this discussion, and all they're going to have is these prints, and they're going to try and figure out what's going on. This is the reason I give these things such a careful review, why Dwayne gives them why we all give them such a careful review, because we know we're not the ones that are going to have to be implementing this. Our inspectors,
We will have to field the complaints from the residents when they're not built to the way the drawings are done.
yes.
And that's where we talk about the litigation and everything else that as a result, we'd like to have it clear.
All righty.
With anything, I think that you need, your blue lines need to be perfect. I mean, you have
Yep.
to build to the print.
Yep.
You could have a quality issue that's 1 millimeter off, and it's got, too bad it's to print.
Exactly.
And now you've wrecked a million parts.
Mr. Chair, are you looking for a motion?
I am looking for a motion at this time.
I'd be happy to make a motion to postpone until the following has been submitted to the planning commission.
We're going to postpone or table?
Postpone.
If you table, it has to come back in 2 weeks.
Yeah,
They won't be ready.
no, that's
So
what
postpone is-
postpone is about.
Okay.
Make the motion to postpone until the following conditions have been met.
Support,
Wait.
Oh, I'm
he's-
sorry.
He's still motioning.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Time out.
Make the motion to postpone until the following conditions have been met. The PC has had time to review the master deed and other documents. Applicant shall provide drawings showing 35 and 40% lot coverage as asked for. Applicant shall provide answers or corrections as discussed at the meeting by all the commissioners. And we'll be able to have Kelly put that off of the recording, all the comments. That is the end of my motion.
Support.
We have a motion and we have support. We will take a roll call vote. If you could help us with that.
Certainly. When I find my papers. Mike Sedlak,
Yes.
Larry Marshall,
Yes.
Audrey Bear,
Yes.
Dwayne Jenke,
Yes.
Sarah Pearsall, yes.
Motion carries. You've got your work cut out for you. Make sure you can get all of these documents in so we have sufficient time to review them. And we'll see you back here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, commissioners.
Moving on our agenda. Reports, chairman report. I've got none. Mr. Sedlak, Township Board Representative.
We had our meeting last night, had discussions about upcoming meetings, and we gave reports that we're having all of our finance and treasury side looked at carefully to streamline operations, and that we had a report from the company providing that. It's coming well. This year's audit's going to be a year of transition, so that's okay. It's going to be better, but it's a transitional year. Additionally, I found out yesterday that we're going to have a November election for the South Lyon schools. And Brighton might be joining in on that as well. As usual, it's a money grab by the schools, and they want to throw it on their November election in an off year, so it's hidden from sight. However, what's really interesting is that because it's an off year and it's a school election only, we are allowed to charge them whatever it cost. My latest estimate for the South Lyon School is over $26,000 just for Green Oak and the 4 precincts that we'll have. And then you have to multiply that by Lyon Township, City of South Lyon, and Salem Township. So it's a significant cost to the school system. I wonder just how aware the taxpayers are going to be aware of that, and maybe they need to express their feelings towards the school. Because I certainly am. I found out that on normal elections, we're not allowed to charge for clerk's time. But on a school election, you bet. I'm going to be really expensive for early voting and everything else.
Yeah.
So
It's quite a burden these days.
it is a horrible burden because even if it's a school election, we still have to have 9 days of early voting. So we have to have staff at a precinct for 9 straight days. My staff has to work 9 straight days plus the week following that, which covers the election as well. So we typically end up working, like 14 straight days. And it's expensive. So we tried to encourage them, which is why I submitted the cost that I did. Maybe they'll change their mind and put it on a regular scheduled election, and they get it for free. So that's my report. I'll step off my soapbox.
Thank you very much. Sarah, Zoning Board of Appeals?
Yes, we had a meeting last month on May 20th, I believe, for a home located at 8585 Pier Road. They wanted to do a detached accessory structure that exceeded 50% of their thing. Yeah.
50%?
Sorry, Mike made me. Yes, 50% of their total floor area,
How
so.
big was that puppy?
It was big, wasn't it? Here, maybe, hold on. How big was it? It was a 1,500 square foot garage. And their house was 21.
Sounds like a nice garage.
It's a dream.
Well, it was a nice garage. And they wanted, it was a 1,077 foot variance, so that's pretty large.
Yeah.
Okay? As you can imagine, actually, they were given some suggestions that I don't think they were into. And so they did not get their ordinance, their variance. Thank you. And that was all we had last month. For next month.
For next month, we have 4.
For next month.
Oh, boy.
4? Okay.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, that was a huge variance.
Yeah. Thank you. Ms. Marin?
Nothing from me?
Nothing for you? Correspondence, Deborah? At this time, we can open a call to the public. This is open for any comments, not limited to agenda items. So if you would like to step up to the microphone, give us your name and address if you wish to speak. This is your time.
Is this just comments, or can we ask questions?
We generally don't try to answer questions.
Sorry.
Okay? That was a question, by the way. That was a test.
I'm Lori Fleisner. My address is 27035 North Dixboro, South Lyon, Green Oak Township. I just wanted to clarify something that Tom's attorney said about us wanting 40% of the lot being built on. I don't believe, I know myself, I don't want that large of home on a small lots across the lake from me, okay? I can't speak for all of the homeowners, but for me, I would rather see larger lots and smaller homes that have some kind of trees, some kind of landscaping, something going on them. He keeps mentioning Hidden Lake. I can attest to the fact that he swore to me this would not be another Hidden Lake before I bought that property. We went to his house in Hidden Lake, and I don't want to live in that kind of community with postage stamp lots and huge houses. I mean, that's why my lot is 2.5 acres. He also mentions the fact that we lied about signing the document. I was shocked my husband and I signed that document. It is not the document that's in the package that he gave us. I gave you guys a copy of that document where, as Avis had mentioned, one of the other homeowners, and several of them can tell you that, we were told there was going to be 20 or 30 houses, and they were going to be over the entire 108 acres. They weren't all going to be lakefront. So I put that in the packet that I gave you guys. The document I signed, I believe, no offense, was a bait and switch. It was during closing. He says, oh, nobody was stupid enough to sign that. Well, 10 of my neighbors all said they didn't remember signing it, and it must have been like when you're signing all the closing documents. So I was definitely stupid enough, and my husband, to sign it, unknowingly. And I'm a business owner. I don't do things like that. And I also believed him about the boat launch that he keeps saying is on private property, but there will be litigation if we don't have a boat launch, because we wouldn't have purchased those lake lots without that promise. So that's all I wanted to say, is we definitely don't want 35 or 40% built on. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for all your time.
Anyone else wish to speak tonight? I'll ask one more time. Then we will close the call to the public, and we are adjourned.